Hi, my name is Coier Amerson, and this is my testimony to you all of how the Lord led me into the 2010 LA Marathon. I'm not a jogger in any way at all. I hated running. But I saw people running. I saw people who were like in their 60s and 70s who were out there running. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So I'm thinking, okay, Lord, why am I all of a sudden, becoming a long distance runner? I've never done this before. And he said, there's a marathon. And so I was like, okay, well, a marathon is probably what I have to do. Earlier this year, probably around February, probably later part of January, I started seeing that the LA Marathon was coming up. So I prayed on it, and the Lord said, okay, this is the marathon right here. But he didn't make me do it. There was no burden attached to it. It was simply an offer that he made to me. And he said there was something in the marathon that I would receive. I figured, okay, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. He said, don't worry, I'll do it in you. I said, okay, well, if you'll do it in me, then I have nothing to worry about. So I began to look up things and get information about, marathoning. Again, late in the game. I should have done this months and months and months before, but I guess the calling hadn't come until then. And so I'm looking things up. I'm seeing people saying, okay, you should be running at least 24 miles a week before you even begin running a marathon. I'm good at, 12, 15 miles a week. So the longest run I had done at that point was like 6 miles straight. So I said, okay, I got to kick it up a bit. So I go from 6 miles to 9 miles. That really, really hurt. And I go from 9 miles to 12 miles, and that hurt even more. Then from 12 miles to 15 miles, like I'm like rushing to try and get up there. But my body's just not prepared for this. And, before the race, I'm like, I don't know if I'm able to actually run this. And I had people telling me, hey, you might hurt yourself in this. People, they die in these things. They get exhausted, hospital, things like that, heart attacks, strokes. I mean, this isn't, a game. And I'm like, well, the Lord said he would do it in me. He said he isn't going to lead me into something that has something like that happen to me. So I had no concern. But I felt the pain from the 12 and the 15 miles, and I'm like, this is horrible. But I've already signed up, and I'm like, Lord, okay, let's see what happens. So day before the race, I go to the expo that they have at Dodger Stadium, and I'm picking up my bib and I'm picking up my shirt and just getting information wherever I can, and I'm going to different booths and I'm trying different things they have. They're like, different energy drinks, and I'm taking these little samples and not really knowing, me not being a caffeine person, that this stuff was amping me up. So I go home the night before the race, and I'm trying to go to sleep, and I can't get to sleep. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I have to be in Santa Monica at 4:30 in the morning to catch a shuttle to Dodger Stadium. Races, then I was going to be at Dodger Stadium for about 3 hours before the race even started. And so it's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, Lord, please, I just need 6 hours. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm like, Lord, 3 hours, please. And then I can't get to sleep. I fall asleep for about an hour. And I wake up out of it, and I look at my phone, and I see that I only have about 30 minutes before I have to wake up. So I said, okay, an hour is what I have. And I didn't complain. I said, Lord, thank you for the hour, because you could have given me 30 minutes. You could have given me no sleep at all. So I got an hour. I got ready, went to Santa Monica, very cold. I had no idea what to expect of what I was doing. We get to Dodger Stadium, and there's so much activity around me. I'm lying down in Dodger Stadium on the concrete, just trying to find any sleep I can possibly get. And I have my Bible with me, and I'm using it like a pillow. I'm trying to get some sleep, but there's so much activity. People were walking around, talking, yelling, laughing, lining up to use the bathroom, and it was a mess. But then a lady walked up to me right before we were about to go, and it was a coworker I had from a job I had out here. And I was like, hey, you're running the marathon? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, hey, now I know somebody here. I have a friend I can run with. That's amazing. And me and her, as friends, we crossed the line and we start running. Okay, so I'm good for the first mile, second, third. Within my range, I'm doing all right. Okay, I'm third, fourth, fifth, sixth mile. I'm cruising. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a breeze, okay? I told the Lord I wouldn't walk at all until at least the 16th mile, because I had gone 15. I knew I could do 15. I wasn't going to stop running and to walk at all until at least the 16th mile. So I get to the 8th mile, and my friend who was there with me said that she had to start walking. She said, I don't know if I can keep running right now. I'm going to start walking. I was like, okay, I'll walk with you. And she said, no, you just keep running. If you can keep running, just keep running. And so I kept going, and it was just me and my Bible. And I said, okay, Lord, it's just me and you now. I get to around Hollywood. It's going downhill, and it was just murdering me. Every step I was taking was feeling like there was like a bat hitting me in my knees. Every step was like someone was cracking me in the knees with a bat, and it was just so painful. And I get to the 16th mile. I stop. I use the bathroom, and I walk just a little bit. I said, okay, I gotta start running. I figured, okay, now I'm getting it. Okay, Lord, now I see what it is you're trying to tell me. Okay, that life life being like a marathon, you gotta run it. You know what I mean? You gotta run this thing. I'm thinking I'm gathering. The Lord is like, okay, you're gathering. And I said, Lord, I'll run any race you put in front of me. Whatever it is, any race you put in front of me, I'll run it. And I began to start picking it up. And he said, any race? I said, any race. He's like, even if it hurts this much. And I said, Lord, even if it hurts this much. And so I continued running. You get through Beverly Hills and you start going through Century City. You're at mile, you see the markers coming up. Miles ahead, you see them coming up like, okay, mile 19, mile 20, mile 21. Okay. In your mind, there's so much going on there. Physically, you're in a place you've never been in before. I had never been in before. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you have no idea where you're at all. You just know you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other one. And the pain you believe is something that you will get used to. That you just keep on running, but it just keeps getting more and more painful. You're not getting used to it. And so I'm seeing people on the side of the road. They're stretching and they're spraying things on their bodies and putting ointments on to kind of get muscle relief. And I continue. And then I'll run and I'll see the exact same person I saw miles back sitting down, now ahead of me sitting down. I'm looking at them like, okay, so maybe that's a technique. Maybe you run a little bit, you sit down, you stretch, you get a little rest, you get up and you start running again. And I'm thinking, okay. I said, well, I haven't been given a release by the Lord to be able to do that. I have to keep running. So I get to about mile 21, I believe, was it 22, and I'm running. And I start to mentally believe there's not going to be a finish line. For some reason in my mind, I figured, okay, the finish line is a myth. There's never going to be an actual finish line. They've lied to me. Okay. And I started talking to the Lord. I said, Lord, I don't want to run anymore. I said, I don't want to run anymore. I was at mile 22. I said, I don't want to. I know. I said, I'm in too much pain right now. My knees and my feet. It was, I can't begin to describe the kind of pain it was. This type of physical pain it was just horrible. I needed some way out of it. And as I was running, I started looking at the curb. And the curb looked very, very inviting. I get to mile 22 and then almost 23. And I hear a voice coming to my head. And it said, go ahead and sit down. You've earned it. And I said, I have earned it. I have earned the right to sit. I just ran 22, almost 23 miles. I've earned the right to kind of sit back and relax a little bit. And so there was this no parking sign that was in front of me. And I said, okay, I'm going to go sit down right there next to that thing. So I go to it, and I grab the sign, and I'm about to sit down. My butt is inches from the ground. And I say, no. And I stand right back up, right before my butt touches the ground, and I start running. And the reason why I didn't sit down was because the voice that told me that I deserved to sit down sounded differently than the voice I had been listening to before. It sounded different. It was very comforting. It was very soothing. It made me believe that I deserved something, that there was something that I should have that belonged to me, that I should go ahead and take for my own. And I was about to do it. And the Lord showed me in that process about the whole idea of compromise. Like within the race, sometimes we believe that we've deserved and earned the right to sit down in our race and to compromise because of the pain that we're going through in our lives. And I recognize now the differences in the voices. It sounded different. So I continued running, and the Lord said, when you get to the marker, you can walk a little bit, but only for about a minute, but then you get to pick it back up and start running again. So I would run to the marker, I'd reach the marker, I'd stop and I'd walk a little bit, and he'd say, okay, now it's time to run. So I start running. I get to mile 23, 24. And the Lord says, the final mile you won't be able to walk, you'll have to run that entire thing. I was like, okay, Lord. And I had my Bible with me, and people were running past me like, hey, is that the word you got right there? I was like, yeah. Like, hey, man, you running with the word. I was like, it's running with me. It's running with me. And I said, Lord, I don't know if I can continue doing this. I said, you told me you would run it in me. I said, I gave up running back at mile 16. I stopped back then. I gave up back then. I've been waiting for you to kick in and do what you said you were going to do. So I'm waiting for you to run this race in me right now the way you promised. And he said, I can't run it in you until you start moving your legs. Once you begin moving your legs, I'll be able to complete it in you. But you're going to have to keep moving your feet. I said, okay. And so I'm getting there, and I'm in the last mile. And the last mile was actually very peaceful for some reason. I guess, I mean, because you know it's almost done. It's a very, very peaceful moment. And you're right by the beach. Okay, you're running down, you know, near Santa Monica Pier, and, you know, a few people are still there cheering you on or whatever, and you can kind of see the marker down at the end, the big finish line. Within the last part of it, the Lord said, remember when you said when you told me that you would run any race I put before you? I said, yeah. And remember when you said, even if it hurts this much? I said, yeah. He said, I wasn't asking you about how much it hurt back at mile 16. I was asking you about how much it hurts right now at mile 25, 26. And what's the answer now? I said, yeah. Yeah, I will. And, you know, I get to the finish line. I didn't get a picture. I had my bib number on my back instead of on my front, which with the cameras and how they work, they don't take pictures of anybody they don't see numbers on, because sometimes people just dive into the line and start running and just jump in front of the camera like they're going to get pictures on. So if you don't have a number where it's going to be visible, they just don't take pictures of you. Mine is on the back, so by the time I pass the cameras and they look, it's like, okay, well, he's already gone. But if I had a picture, I crossed the finish line with my Bible, and I was holding it and I was kissing it. And I was so grateful that the Lord had kept his promise. He finished the race through me. But as I've learned, you know, that was the finish line to that race. That was the lesson. That was what I was to receive. But I continued to receive. I'm continuing to receive. It's like there hasn't been a single thing that's happened in my life since then that I have not been able to relate to that race as it relates to my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ.